Hey everybody, wish you guys all well. In this video, I want to dive into iron sharpens iron. The world has become very weak, and there's many different reasons why, but for me, all the paths and the questions have led me to Christ. What does that mean? Well, putting that into words is what I try to do in these videos. The goal is to become strong as men. And what does that mean? Everybody has a different reason or different definition of what strength is. And I think one of the reasons why it becomes so misinterpreted is because there's strength from the ego and then there's strength from spirit. There's an organic strength that comes. The paradox of it is that you have to surrender to receive it. In other words, to have genuine healthy pride, you have to have genuine healthy humility. Only until you have that humility do you really grow into your strength. There's something very strong about someone who is willing to listen to something that may be an uncomfortable truth. If you're overweight, are you quick to attack someone who's attacking your weakness? Or are you welcoming to receive it and then take action towards addressing the issue? Now, that's just a simple example. When you dive into the word and you see a lot of these paradoxes, at a certain point, it seems like a contradiction. What I mean by that is that, well, for example, the Bible instructs us to be kind. If you go around being kind to enough people, someone will take advantage of that. And it requires a deeper and deeper understanding. In the same way that it's very easy to slip into sin and to become comfortable in sin. These small rationalizations that we make every single day. I'll do it tomorrow. Or, it's okay just doing this that one time. Well, one time, okay. One time can easily become 2 times and 3 times, and it's not long before it becomes a habit every single day. And it's very easy to fall into these traps. It's easy the practical example, it's easy to have that donut than it is to deny yourself. That's why fasting is so important. It really reveals your character. There's an importance to me. Strength is having genuine compassion for our fellow man, but at the same time having brutal honesty. We need brutal honesty. There's so many ways to escape. And it brings me back to the original point I made this video, is because iron sharpens iron. And it's important to evaluate the relationships you have in your life. Who are the people who sharpen you? Who are the people who tell you the truth? And have that compassion. It's not an easy line to walk. It's very easy, at least speaking for myself, to be one or the other. It's very easy to be critical of others and where they should be better. Or it's very easy to just be compassionate and not want to hurt other people's feelings. And there's lessons in both. When you're critical of others, it'll come back to you. You'll be like, well, take out the speck in your eye first. Become the person you want to have other people in your life. Stop trying to find other people. It's very easy to try to find external things we want. Take relationships. People want to find this perfect person, but they don't want to become the perfect person. That's what I mean by the external. People want the shiny objects out there, but they don't want to work on the shiny object within ourselves. The spirit within, to really flourish that and to listen to it, which again, it comes back to the point of humility, getting to a genuine place of humility. It's linked to the word humiliation. Nobody's perfect. And when you get to that realization and you live in that place, things start to happen. Revelation starts to happen. You start to see things differently. But the ego stops that, right? It's pride. It tells us, no, I can't be seen as weak. And again, when you confront that part, whatever it is, because it's different for everybody, but when you confront that part, it just opens up a whole other opportunity to go deeper. Again, taking that example of weakness, well, Christ instructs us that his power is made perfect in our weakness, therefore we boast of our weaknesses. Very quickly, and we had a discussion on this recently, is that very quickly that can become into a cynical poor me. And then, so as we grow deeper into objective truth, into God, it becomes, it's like a higher the level, the different the devil. Higher the level, the higher the devil. It becomes complicated. And there's many aspects to it. It's the willingness to be seen as weak. That's actually a strong attribute. Whereas the distinction of just walking around saying, poor me, look where I'm weak here, that's not it. But there's something really strong, iron sharpens iron, about people you can be absolutely vulnerable with. But the key thing is that there can't be a hidden need for validation, which essentially makes it an internal process, meaning that you have to look at your weaknesses, you have to look at the man or woman in the mirror and just sit with that and just speak things as they are. If you're overweight, it is what it is. We're not going to write a whole story about how bad it is and all that. I'm overweight. What can I do about it? It's a very practical kind of start. And being with that pain, a big part of it with iron sharpens iron is you're putting to death the flesh. When I hear people, you hear stories about people who who've been really dark places, and they don't want, how do I go on, and I don't want to do this thing anymore, which is life. It's an opportunity. It truly is an opportunity. It's a blessing if you can see it that way. Of course, it goes without saying you don't want to see anybody go through with that. But it's an invitation. The reason I say it's a blessing is because it's an invitation to put to death the weak part of yourself. And if you stay with it, you grow with it, and you don't fall into the trap of pride. Or if you fall into the trap of pride, you persevere, you continue to move forward. That's how you can become the strongest version of yourself. No one ever became strong without going through this process of rebirth, which is incredibly painful. And depending on how deep the individual is in sin or pride, same thing. It's seven deadly sins. You look at that and you take an honest evaluation. And I say all of this to say, like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And that quote, iron sharpens iron, should be an encouragement to find fellow people, because so many people, including myself at points in my life, you fall into gossip. They fall into these little vices that seem that give us this little pick me up, whether it be gossip or lust or pride. Look how great I am, and that can bleed in so many different ways. And it's so important to have people in your life that you can really lean on. And that's one of the other things that can be very painful, is that you may not have any of those people in your life, and it's painful to recognize, well, that might be on you. And then to become the person that you want to be, that you wish you had in your life. That's some people's stories. All things work for the good for those who believe in God. And it's an invitation. Maybe you're blessed you have those people in your life, and it's important. Maybe the message that needs to be received is, don't forget about those people. Give them a call. Check in on them. Maintain those relationships. I also like to think of it like seasons. People come in your life and people come out of your life, and it's important to have no resentment. Everyone has a different reason for why, where they're at in their life. And it's been very helpful to me to not fall into the cynic, to fall into the stories that the mind will come up with. But the main point is it's really important to have those people in your life, to find those people, and recognize that tied in with the seasons that a lot of people aren't ready to be born again, and that's just part of it. People, when is the right time for a flower to bloom? Well, different flowers are going to bloom at different times. You have chickens; they're going to hatch at different times. Which is the right time? Well, it's when it's ready. To be born again is incredibly painful. It is, and to welcome that, live in a world that there's a million and one different escapes, and it's so easy to join into the circus of the noise, the entertainment of life. But how many of us can really be with the silence and to be with fellow brothers in the silence and to have those real discussions? Speaking for myself, my heart is so hungry for that. And there are there is the trap that I want that from someone to come from out there. It's very easy to follow the Jordan Petersons or the Jockos, the David Goggins. But all of those people, without hesitation, would always they're giving the invitation. These are people that I look at like they want you to do it. They're trying to spark other people. At least that's the sense I get. So it's easy to watch that. It's easy to watch someone else in the arena. It's another thing to step into the arena because when you step into the arena, a lot of stuff comes up. The past comes up, and that'll challenge you. That'll poke at you and try to drag you down. The the again, relationships will come in and out of your life. Some people are not going to be ready as you grow strong. There's hidden resentments. There's a pride element. People want to be number one, but in Christ's kingdom, again, we're instructed to be humble. The first shall be last, the last shall be first. It's something that's just wired in my heart that just makes so much sense. And when you have the humility to receive it in the right way, it's it's power. It's true power, which is really it's really what we want. But when the ego gets a hold, meaning, do you want to wake up empowered every day, or do you want to wake up like weak? Well, we want to wake up empowered, but there's a false sense of empowerment, and there's a true sense of empowerment. It's obedience to radical truth, and it's something we grow into. Again, we don't sin. We don't grow comfortable in sin overnight. The person who does wrong, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a pattern, a history of poor decisions, which is all of us. Some people get the memo at different points through different experiences. But at some point, you make a decision. Am I going to go all in on this? And what does all in look like? And there's, again, another trap in there. I'm going to do all this overnight. When you confront your sin and your shame and your guilt and your pride and all these things, it can be overwhelming. How am I going to crucify this part of me that I've welcomed in? I made a home in me. That's why I often post 1%. 1% every single day. I post workout videos, 1%. You get to the gym. Well, maybe you didn't lift that much, but you went one more day in your routine than normal. Maybe you have that difficult conversation. Maybe you give a little 1% at work. You give 1% somewhere in life. And then becomes another thing where it's not about, I got to work hard because you got to do all these things and do this and do that, because then you can get caught into the trap of the busy, 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 busy. Routine is a good thing, but it can also very quickly become Groundhog Day. It's the same thing over and over. So there's always a new lesson built into life. Maybe you need something fresh. You need something new. You need to learn a new skill. You need to develop a new habit. You need to meet someone new, whatever it may be. All of this is iron sharpens iron. So these kind of conversations are necessary to have with other people. The people in your life are either going to lead you towards God or lead you away from God by nature, by default. I'm surrounded by trees here. The weeds are going to grow around. Those are the people in life. Again, seasons. I've been a weed in my life. I've been a rock solid tree in my life. But it's very easy to fall back into the weed mentality. I've also heard that it's the crabs in the bucket. These forgive them, they know not what they do. People, in the same way that I didn't know what I was doing at different points in my life and different aspects, other people don't know what they're doing. It's very easy to paint a picture, oh, this is so bad, and easy to fall into the victimhood of life. You hear some people's stories, and it puts things into perspective. There's people who have a diagnosis of cancer. There's people who have lived with cancer for years right now. And, but even with that, there's the trap to fall into comparison and comparing ourselves to others, which isn't it either. But sometimes it's important to have a perspective change when you share kind of the real, raw conversations of life, which is built into iron sharpens iron. These are the people who are radically vulnerable. Not seeking the validation to make them feel better about where they're at, but a matter of fact, to get it off your chest and take action towards being born again, not looking back, creating a new identity. People create new identities every single day. I've done it. I'm sick of being weak. I'm going to be the strong guy. Okay, I learned a lot from that. And what is strength? Who is strong? Who do I look up to? Spent years reflecting on it, watching different people's opinions, different people's views, seeing truths, and then living those, and then realizing, well, it's not fully true, and it's a constant process. And all these roads led me to Christ. That to me is the man's man. He was strong, carried a cross voluntarily, accepted death voluntarily, had genuine compassion, and even more so for people who welcomed it. The thief on the cross comes to mind. Or the other example of, I believe, help me to remove my disbelief. What a genuine statement, right? This path to Christ is not about just reading the Bible every day and going to church. That might be what you need to do. It might be what others need to do at that point. But many people who go to church don't know Christ. Many people who do. Many people who go to school learn a lot in school. Many people just have a degree. Main point of this is to really just find those people who you can have those real conversation with. And like many of the topics discussed on this channel, it starts with the man in the mirror. It starts with having those conversations, because you can have those conversations and reflect on that, taking an honest inventory today. You don't need somebody else to have that. And in fact, as you grow into that, as you take an honest inventory on where are my weaknesses, especially when no one's looking. Do you struggle with alcohol? Do you struggle with advice? Do you struggle with porn? Do you struggle with inner dialogue of wanting to be number one? Now, what does number one look like? Again, that's why the first shall be last, the last shall be first just speaks to me, because in my experience, and I've spoken about it a bunch, is that the truth, the real deep truths are in the paradox. You focus too much on the kindness element, you can very quickly become a nice guy and a people pleaser, which is really pride hidden behind it. You focus too much on the just be blunt, Focus on, you know, it becomes almost like you become a Pharisee. Well, you got to do this to follow Christ. You got to do that, and you got to do that, and you got to tie 10%. You got to do everything by the book. That's not it. You can go too much into that. But there's pieces of truth. All these things are kind of, I think, gifts from God that you just focus on one, and it reveals the paradox if you focus in it. So if you're someone who's too blunt, maybe just start being kind to people, and then you grow deeper into it, because there's a deeper kindness that it's like a well. It's like a well within all of us. We're no longer identifying, I'm going to be kind to be a nice, to be seen as a kind person. The kindness is because it's a genuine, objective conviction that it's the best way to play this game. That is life. These are the kind of conversations that are important to have regularly. Even in the paradox of the lone wolf, it's very easy to get, as a man, to get into the place, I can do it all by myself. I don't need anybody. And again, this is where it just, everyone's at a different place in their life. So that might be the calling. Maybe you're someone who has just been around so many people, and you need to, and people take care of you and make you feel good. And there's these kind of night, and you need to really go the 40-day, 40-night version of Christ, where you have to go within your own heart and take that honest inventory. Or maybe it's maybe you've been that lone wolf and you need to connect with like-minded people. And there's different reasons why it's scary. Vulnerability is scary. Vulnerability requires courage. But there is a false vulnerability, as I'll continue to repeat. It becomes almost like an emotional competition. Who's the bigger victim? Look at all my pain. There's power when Christ says, he who is without sin cast the first stone. And there's also power in go and sin no more. And when you're rooted in that conviction and surrounded by people in these deep rooted convictions, you can genuinely enjoy being in the presence of other people who are on this same path. And there's, to me, very few things greater than that, aside from having a family, having the first newborn, is having these real relationships in your life. But again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is one of the most painful processes, because you live long enough in this world and it's very easy to escape. It's easy to escape into politics. It's easy to escape into sports. It's easy to escape into entertainment. It's easier to escape into vices and cover up our sin, make us feel good temporarily. And the longer, again, we do that, when we finally say, hey, you know what? I need presence. I'm running, running, running. I'm overloaded at work. I'm overloaded. I'm burning out in this relationship. I'm burning out here. I'm doing, 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 but I'm not getting the genuine feeling of the presence of God. Not the feeling of the world too, which can mirror that. It's very easy to get stuck in feeling good. And there's a reason why people will live in feeling good for so long. And socially accepted versions of that as well. Maybe you're not a complete drug addict. Maybe you are. Maybe that's, there's you can look at someone who has struggled with drugs and you go, oh, wow, that's a shame and all that. But then we glorify the person who has the appearances of everything together. And how could you know? You couldn't, unless you had that genuine conversations about the difficult discussions of life and the fruitful discussions of life. It's not all pain. This is iron sharpens iron. sitting in front of a campfire, sitting. I did a podcast with Tyler Todd. How many of your friends ask you, how's your soul doing? And genuinely listen. And again, not for any other reason that the same reason that many people don't is, again, that you get caught in the noise. Life can be busy and there's a lot of responsibilities. That plays a factor into it. But it's absolutely important to have that. It's very important to have that. It's like being in a battlefield, which I believe we are. We are in a spiritual war. And one practical way I like to look at that, it's a war of patterns. Everybody has a pattern of behavior, and we're kind of nodes in the network, and we have feedback, we receive feedback, and we give feedback. And a big part of it is avoiding the pain, avoiding those difficult conversations, holding on to relationships that are not serving our growth towards God, and fear of giving those up because of how it may affect other relationships. And then here we are fighting a battle of relationships instead of growing closer to God. Because when we grow closer to God, we'll meet those relationships appropriately. Or we won't. And we'll make those mistakes, which is another trap of the ego. Oh, I can't make any mistakes. I got to keep all the appearances up. It's exhausting. Instead of going inwardly. You don't pray? Start praying every day. Start taking 5 minutes of silence every day. Start instilling habits that lead you to a clearer sense of mind on how you can meet these issues, which we all face. We all face. So I'll end that there. Almost close to a half hour. Stay the path, and this is really a big part of it is having like-minded people. And if you don't have those people, to become that person, to become the person that you want from other people. Again, maybe you're surrounded by people who are gossipy. You can't even be honest because you know it'll be used against you. And big part of that is, again, it's the willingness to accept that. Accept that. There's constant scripture. We're not called to put our trust into people. And the reframe in that is that when you're absolutely brutally honest, you get a front row seat on who the people who are really going to be in your life and who the people are not. Accept it. It's a gift if you can see it, and that's painful. Another painful truth. But that's what life, a big part of life is all about, is that we are dying to the comfortable lies for the uncomfortable truths. Because at the highest level of seeing is that the most comfortable truth is in God, what is absolutely true. So each day we die to that, little by little. Take it from me, who's messed this up, is it's little by little. You die to these uncomfortable truths day by day. Iron sharpens iron. One man sharpens another, and one man strengthens another just by growing closer to God.